Hey everyone, Nigel here. Just a quick word before we get into today's video. Luke and I have both had a bit of an unfortunate week. I'm dealing with a rather sudden family emergency, and Luke is stuck at his place recovering from the flu. To top it all off, we also got another copyright strike on the channel. So yeah, it's been one of those weeks. As you know though, we really hate not putting anything out, so today we've decided to dig back into our archives to bring you a video from the early days of the channel, one that we think most of you probably haven't seen. Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, a huge thanks to all of you out there watching. While we most often hear about thefts related to money or other obvious valuables like jewelry or high-end electronics, it's safe to say that anything of value can and will be stolen under the right circumstances. While that usually means opportunistic crimes like petty theft and other items not seriously protected due to their low value, that's certainly not always the case. Like most things, theft does occasionally reward those willing to think outside the box. Today, we wanted to take a look at some of the most unbelievable things ever stolen. For this list, we'll be focusing on things that, while valuable, are strange, might seem impossible to take, or that you would simply never think to steal. Occasionally, all three. With that out of the way, here is our list of 10 things you won't believe were stolen. In 2012, a Chilean man was caught transporting thousands of dollars worth of stolen glacier ice. The ice was from the Jorge Montt Glacier in Bernardo O'Higgins National Park, one of the fastest retreating glaciers in the world. Because of the rugged terrain, usually only accessed by boat or helicopter, the man was easy to spot behind the wheel of a large refrigerated truck. The truck contained more than 5 tons of ice from the glacier, and was going to be sold to local bars and restaurants in Chile's capital of Santiago. In addition to the theft, authorities considered adding charges under the National Monuments Act for violating the country's heritage. Though metal thieves traditionally prefer to go after higher value metals like gold or copper, dramatically increasing prices of all scrap metal worldwide has made even the occasional manhole cover a target for theft. Still, some thieves have set their sights on an even bigger score. Believe it or not, whole bridges have been stolen for the purpose of sale on the illicit scrap metal market, with one case in eastern Russia standing out in particular. In a single night in 2008, thieves made off with an entire 200-ton steel bridge, the value of which was only $25,000 US at the time. The bridge was part of a single road servicing a local heating plant, and employees were shocked to find when they arrived in the morning that they could no longer get to work. The company estimated that it would cost 10 times the amount of the actual stolen materials to replace the bridge, also saying that the next one would be made of reinforced concrete. In 2011, NASA confiscated an RL-10 rocket engine that was being illegally sold as part of an online auction. Apparently, this wasn't the first place the seller had tried to unload it either, as it had also appeared on eBay the previous summer. The engine was from a NASA Saturn I rocket from the 1960s, the first liquid-fueled hydrogen engine used by the US, and was valued at over $200,000. Though NASA does occasionally sell surplus hardware, this particular piece was included in a report from NASA's Office of the Inspector General declaring that it had indeed been stolen. Unfortunately, NASA didn't provide any information on how the thief actually managed to get the rocket engine out of the building. The theft of over 3,000 tons of maple syrup from a storage facility in Quebec between 2011 and 2012 earned the informal nickname the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. Though non-Canadians may not be familiar, maple syrup is serious business in Quebec, with the organization of producers called the FPAQ even being likened to a cartel. The heist amounted to almost $19 million of stolen product, the most valuable in Canadian history, and was unsurprisingly an inside job. The operation worked by taking barrels of syrup from the facility where it would be siphoned out and replaced with water. Eventually, the thieves got lazy, however, and began returning empty barrels that were much more easily discovered due to their 600-pound weight difference. 17 people were eventually arrested in connection with the heist in December of 2012. A wallet belonging to the first president of the United States was stolen from its display case in the Old Barracks Museum in New Jersey in the winter of 1992. Though we don't imagine George Washington had any upcoming purchases to worry about, given that he'd been dead for almost 200 years at the time, the wallet was nonetheless a priceless piece of American history. Even worse, the wallet had been loaned to the museum by a private collector. There were obviously no extraordinary security measures in place at the museum, as the thief was able to simply lift the plexiglass cover on the display case, walking off with the artifact. Though the wallet was returned 3 weeks later, it arrived without its former contents, $1.66 in colonial American currency, which consisted of a dollar bill printed in 1779 and a 2/3 dollar bill printed in 1776. The currency was reportedly never recovered. Every rare artifact seems to have its black market, and the world of illegal dinosaur fossils is apparently no exception. In 2012, now notorious fossil dealer Eric Procopi was arrested for conspiracy to smuggle illegal goods, possession of stolen property, making false statements, smuggling goods into the United States, and interstate sale and receipt of stolen goods. The most severe of these charges related to the import and sale of a species of dinosaur known as the Tyrannosaurus bataar, a variety found in Mongolia, where it is a violation of the Constitution to remove dinosaur fossils without government consent. Needless to say, Procopi did not have that consent. Though the Tyrannosaurus was sold at auction in New York for over $1 million, the US government was able to track down the fossilized skeleton and return it to Mongolia the following year. In 2014, Procopi ended up spending 3 months in jail as a result of various fossil smuggling crimes, though illicit Mongolian dinosaur fossils would still turn up in the following years. In one high-profile incident in 2015, actor Nicolas Cage ended up returning a skull to Mongolia from the exact same species of dinosaur, a fossil he had reportedly outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for in 2007. Though the skull originated from a gallery that previously sold fossils smuggled by Procopi, it was never confirmed whether Cage's fossil was one of them. Though this next story was more publicity stunt than serious crime, we still felt we had to give credit to the New York Daily News for their 2008 caper involving the Empire State Building. Designed to expose a glaring loophole in New York City's system for handling property records, the newspaper filed obviously fraudulent paperwork with the city to transfer the deed to the iconic $2 billion building to a fake company that they had set up. The stunt relied on an ill-advised and frankly unbelievable city policy that didn't require clerks to verify the information submitted on this kind of paperwork. Less than 90 minutes after receiving the bogus documents, the transfer was complete, and the Daily News had technically stolen the Empire State Building. While it was promptly returned and wouldn't have gone unnoticed for long either way, the point was to show how easy it would be for real criminals to target smaller properties and steal the deeds from their owners. This was far from hypothetical, as many thieves in New York had done just that, illegally selling buildings or taking out hundreds of thousands in fraudulent mortgages. It's not often that stealing is used as a tool for good, but in this case, it looks like the Daily News did the right thing. As you might imagine, the story of how the brain of the most famous physicist of the 20th century was stolen to satisfy the curiosity of one man is indeed a strange one. Just several hours after Albert Einstein's death in 1955, pathologist Thomas Stoltz Harvey removed and weighed his brain, a decision that immediately put him in shaky ethical territory. Though it is still unclear what Einstein's final wishes actually were for his body, the idea to remove the brain appears to be one Harvey came up with entirely on his own. Despite this, Harvey eventually secured the permission of Einstein's eldest son to temporarily take possession of the brain with the promise of sending the samples to qualified scientists to conduct research. At the time, it was believed that much could be learned about Einstein's genius simply by looking at his brain. Though Harvey did indeed send out samples to leading specialists, little resulted from their work, and interest quickly died down. From there, things get murky, but what we do know is that Harvey kept the brain in his possession for decades, despite failing to deliver on the initial promise of groundbreaking research into Einstein's unique genius. Though pieces of the brain were shockingly revealed to still be in Harvey's possession in 1978 by journalist Stephen Levy, it wasn't until 2010 that all of Harvey's remaining samples of Einstein's brain were properly transferred to the National Museum of Health and Medicine. Though it may sound impossible, the world is technically running out of sand. The most consumed natural resource in the world after air and water, sand is vital to a truly staggering amount of the modern economy. Everything from consumer products to computer chips to the glass and concrete in our buildings. In fact, a growing number of countries are beginning to engage in and accuse each other of what's known as sand theft, or the illegal mining of sand that leads to the depletion of the resource. A less common but still important part of this problem is known as beach theft, which results in the partial, or in some cases, full disappearance of an entire beach. One notable example of such theft occurred in Trelawney, Jamaica in 2008 at the Coral Spring Beach. Police discovered that upwards of 500 truckloads of sand had been stolen from the beach, resulting in the destruction of almost 400 meters of land, which was suspected to have been sold to rival resorts. A 3-month investigation by police failed to lead to any charges. Beyond the destruction of the beach itself, the thefts lead to other problems like soil salination that can destroy crops and ecosystems. Some of the most alarming estimates from environmental scientists predict that if nothing is done about these crimes, it could lead to the disappearance of most of the world's beaches by the end of the century. Of all of the thefts on our list, none arguably have as many crazy details as the 2009 theft at the British Museum of Natural History. In June of that year, 20-year-old Royal Academy musician Edwin Rist managed to make off with the preserved skins of 299 tropical birds, including some from legendary naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace. Wallace was a contemporary of Charles Darwin, and the skins were priceless historical specimens dating back to the mid-1800s. The details only get stranger from there. While Rist undoubtedly stole the skins in part for their millions of dollars in monetary value, he also had another reason for the theft. The feathers of tropical birds are highly sought after in the fly fishing community among a niche group of salmon fly tyers who adhere to the methods and materials of Victorian-era fly fishermen. Rist was a fly-tying prodigy and had been obsessed with the craft since his early teens. According to reports about the case, he sold some of the feathers to buy himself a golden flute, but many others he kept for himself and gave to fellow fly-tyers. Though Rist was hardly a master criminal and was caught and convicted roughly a year later, he served no jail time, and to this day, much of his priceless haul remains uncovered. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a minute to thank our amazing supporters over on Patreon. As many of you are aware, our situation on YouTube always seems to be a bit uncertain, but our patrons help to ensure that we can continue to make content like this long term without having to worry as much about what surprises might be thrown our way. Plus, patrons also get access to 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. If you'd like to help support the channel directly, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to join. You can also find that link in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.